Welcome to New Game Plus. You're listening to a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
Prince.
And this is episode 255.
255.
We now have both audio and video versions of the podcast, by the way. So you can find that video cast on YouTube. And as always, our audio cast is always available on any podcast provider of your choice.
Oh, yeah.
With
Hey,
our
also,
apologies.
subscribe on YouTube. Let's see if we can get to 1 million subscribers tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And also, we have a Discord. We need to get to 500 members so that we can get statistics. So join us on Discord.
So for those like 12 of you that have been listening to this thing since day one but haven't talked to us once, this is your time to shine.
How dare you?
Netflix will be developing an Assassin's Creed live-action series. Neither of you are big AC fans.
No.
So shut up, Kenny.
No, that's not what I don't care about. I don't care about Netflix.
But says who?
Me.
You have to
Most
care
of
about
their-
Netflix.
Not
Most
opinion.
of their original stuff is hot garbage.
Says
Not all of it.
who?
Me.
Says
right
the Stranger
now.
Things fanboy.
You're the only
I love
one.
Stranger Things. That might be the exception.
Oh
The
my
majority of the content they pump out is hot garbage.
God. Well, so my question was, as outsiders to the Assassin's Creed series, how do you feel about this?
Look,
I'd like it.
you just okay. You'd like it, but you just get through
If it
bashing
was
it.
made well, I don't trust Netflix. I think it's great source material, and I would totally be entertained by it. But I'd rather them do a couple of, I don't know, AAA movies.
Kenny, they have the most money in the world. You have to trust them. They make everything. And
There's a lot of people that have a lot of money that I don't trust.
like me. And I trust them because I liked The Witcher. They did the Witcher series, and it was actually good, and I enjoyed it, and I was worried about it at first. So if they handle it in a responsible way, like they did The Witcher, then I think it could be good. I again, don't care about Assassin's Creed, but Dustin, I can see you really liking it.
Y'all, I already know the answer to this, but for our listeners, did either of you see the 2016 Assassin's Creed movie?
Was Michael Fassbender in that, or am I making that up?
Yes, he was. He was the assassin.
No, I did not see that.
Kenny, you did not either. You shook your
I
head,
did
no,
not.
acting like people
On an audio podcast.
could see your face.
We're on video too now.
You just got through saying that,
and you
Dustin.
can check us out at YouTube. Subscribe so that we can get 1 million by the end of the day.
1 milli.
I don't know. It wasn't like a great movie, but I thought it was a good fan service. And so, like, it was fine for what it was trying to be, but it's not going to win any awards. Kenny,
Yeah, when you
what?
just make a fan service something, you're not actually making a good anything.
but when you're doing a game to that is so
That's
you've
not
got
true.
so many bad opinions
That's
today.
the definition of fan
I
service,
do
Kenny.
not.
But listen, if you do a video game to movie adaptation, that is a fan service. And so it can be done well. Witcher, I think, was holistically received as a good endeavor. And then even with Sonic, most recently, this year, I believe was when Sonic came out. And I think that actually did well. It is a fan service, but it can be more than that.
I agree. I don't know what Kenny's talking about. He loves Stranger Things, and that's Netflix's, like, that's their main thing.
Okay.
They're professional.
My hot take on Netflix has nothing to do with anything, but I'm right about everything else.
It's a cold take.
Everything else in life, all right. All I'm saying is, I hope it's good. Obviously, I love Assassin's Creed. I want good Assassin's Creed content. I want good video game content adaptations. I fear that that's not going to be done well because that's a lot more likely. Yes.
There it is.
But being in Netflix's hands, I think it could be good. Wasn't there something else? Was there a Castlevania something that was made recently?
Yeah, it was animated, and I think some people on our Discord were saying that it's actually really good. I want to check it out.
Netflix?
Yeah, by reputation, they did a good job with it.
It looks
but
awesome.
I didn't
Wow.
watch it, so I don't know.
Well, I'd say we have reason to be hopeful with Witcher, Sonic. I know that's not both Netflix, but it's adaptations, and with even Castlevania. I'd say so far on this adaptation thing, like we're on a roll. Like in our retro game of the week, Katamari Damacy.
I did
Don't
like
dab.
And
What?
don't ever dab.
Don't
that is
ever.
Every time
ever
you
dab.
get me closer to quitting the show. When
Is
you dab.
dabbing cool?
I think dabbing's coming back.
Overview.
Katamari Damacy. I'm gonna pronounce it differently each time because I
Damashi.
don't... Damashi?
That's how they pronounce it.
Katamari
Katamari Damashi.
Is the most recent video game we've played on this podcast, or one of. This came out in Japan on March 18th of 2004. So it's going to be one of the most recent games we played. It was released for the PlayStation 2. I'm thinking now even there's a few other recent titles we played. We always mention Ratchet and Clank. Even I know Gitaru Man was a PlayStation 2 title as well.
Yep.
Devil May Cry, we played that a while back, and even Okage most recently. Wasn't that also a PlayStation 2 title?
I think so.
Yeah, that was PS2.
And so this game was developed and published by Namco. You've probably heard of them
Tekken.
before. Tekken and others.
And others.
It is a third-person puzzle action game. Which even me just saying that is not clear enough as to what this is.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
What?
It's third person.
And a game. So it is. It's safe to say that it is unlike any game that we played so far. Correct? Kenny, will you agree on one thing this episode?
He won't.
I mean, I just told you it's not even a game, and so sure, if every other thing we've played is a game, then
But you don't
it's
think that.
unlike any other game we've played.
What
It's
if
not.
Kenny has a really crazy hot take on this game, Nolan?
I could see it happening, and it would
could-
make for an interesting episode because
I could clearly see it happening. He's not going to be ambivalent. It's going to be one way or the other. It's either going to be really right or really wrong. And
I mean,
don't.
as we've established, my opinions are
Oh my
right.
God. Here's the thing in this game. Let me explain it a little bit so you viewers at home or you listeners at home can
They're all viewers.
have some kind of understanding of what we're talking about with calamari.
Calamari. Good luck with this one, by the way, Dustin. Explaining.
What?
Go. I said good luck explaining.
Well, I'll say that you are the tiny prince,
Yeah.
and you are only
Yeah.
5 centimeters tall, which is quite tiny.
Small, yeah.
Your father is the king of the cosmos, and your father has, I think, in a drunken rampage, accidentally wiped all the stars from the sky, and so
Happens.
you need to rebuild them. And so he sends you, his tiny son, the tiny prince, to Earth to roll around and with your calamari bar and
Wait, it's calling it calamari. You're gonna make me hungry.
with your Katamari ball to pick up items in increasing size, so that you can then throw those pieces of those balls that you create up into the sky to take the place of stars and other constellations, so that we can refill the sky with all the stars. As simple as that.
So
And if that sounds crazy, we haven't even done it justice, because all of that story is told in the most unique way with the most unique characters that we've seen in 255 games.
Oh, bold.
that is bold. It's very like that sounds like one of those stories that you get from the handbook that they don't tell you. And you're like, what? But no, that's how they set up the game that way. They tell you that story, and it's being told as you play the game. It's very ridiculous.
And then
You've got some very blatant cutscenes before, in between, and after each stage that you're not actually following. Like, how you're being kind of told the story a lot is that you're following the story of this family the mom and the two kids that are
Oh.
going on vacation to find the father or something along these lines. And so in between each of these stages, they're watching the news and the kids keep recognizing the stars are gone, or the news is saying this and the mom's just completely oblivious to all that's going on. But you're getting the story from that perspective while you are the tiny prince. And in between the stages, you're presenting this star to your father, who is probably the most insane character I've ever come across.
I've never done meth.
But you imagine.
But this is probably the closest thing to what it might feel like. It's honestly, this game is absurd in every single way, and it's not shy about that. Like it meant to do that, and it succeeded.
Yeah, it's an absolute trip. Like complete nonsense.
Gameplay.
Okay, so the genre we kind of joked about there, and Kenny had an opinion. What did you call it, Dustin? What? Third person?
A third-person puzzle action game. And I
Okay.
think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it is too. I would also maybe add on arcade, because it feels arcadey in the style of how you play the game, because it's not like, okay, it's really hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but basically it's really hard to fail at this game. It's easy. You don't think so?
I failed once, and I imagine Kenny failed a lot. Like, I mean, it is... I think it's relatively easy to fail, but also I feel like in arcade games, it's very easy to fail. Like...
Okay,
But-
so when I say arcade,
Yeah.
I mean it's not like you're sitting down and you're like getting stuck on like a platforming level, or you're trying to absorb a bunch of story in a strategy game. You're sitting down to chill and to play a very simple game. The rules are very simple. You're rolling a ball around. Like at the bare minimum, that's what you're doing in this game. And it's a very relaxing kind of game to play, and that's kind of what I'm saying. And I didn't fail that much. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a time limit, but I mean, I don't know.
Relaxing is a word that I wouldn't use.
Why?
This is going to be
Because
so interesting.
genocide is not relaxing
It's hilarious.
So we
or
haven't
funny.
we haven't specified, but you have to roll up items in progressing sizes, and so you've got to start with small things. So you're rolling your Katamari ball, and you're first picking up thumbtacks,
Yeah.
paper clips, dominoes, but that will slowly evolve until where you're picking up trucks, people, buildings, skyscrapers,
Clouds.
Loch Ness monsters. Like, you are picking up things in progressing sizes until, and it's the reason why it is puzzle, and I feel like puzzle works here. It's not a puzzle in that, like traditional puzzles of you're trying to, I don't know, solve how to get from point A to point B, or how to place this block and then the next block. It's not a puzzle in that form, but it is a puzzle in the fact of you've got this kind of living, breathing stage, and you can only get certain things at certain sizes. And once you're at a certain size, you can then unlock a new area to be able to get things in that size. And again, like Nolan said, you have a time limit. Kenny's just shaking his head no.
I don't know
The entire
why.
time I'm talking.
What, Kenny?
I know, because I don't agree.
What,
That's
that it's a puzzle
shaking
game?
your head no means.
Thank you.
There's nothing puzzling about. No, there's a lot of puzzling things
so
about this
much
game. It's
puzzling.
not a puzzle game.
Yes.
Maybe it's an
Beautiful.
exploration game of some sort.
Exploration.
But what it is a trippy Japanese entertainment experience.
Okay.
I can't go any further than that.
No, look.
And I'm putting entertainment in quotes.
It is puzzly, Kenny. You have to remember, Dustin, he's coming from the standpoint of calling his puzzle game is that like old weird one that we played early on the podcast that was so puzzly, and
Which Chips Challenge?
Chips Challenge, yeah.
That's like classical puzzles. Clearly
Sure,
this isn't that
but
kind
this
of game.
also can be because it's not because it's trial and error. A lot of it is like, I think I can pick this up. Oh, I can't.
Exactly.
Okay, and so then you
You're
go
not
pick up.
figuring it out. It'd be one thing if you had to keep track of the size of your ball and then could somehow actually see the size of things you were going and make some kind of strategic choice about pick up this or that because it'll do something different. It
Okay.
won't. You just pick up everything. You just roll and then you just keep rolling. And then
This
you
is
either pick up stuff or you can't, and you do or you don't. It's just the same thing over and over and over again.
Kenny, are you stupid?
Answer the question. Kenny
No.
got mad because he rolled into things this week that he thought he should have been big enough to pick up and he wasn't, and so he raged and didn't get far. He probably wasn't good at this game because for many reasons, but the controls
You can't be bad at this game.
you can. Why do you act
No, you can't
weren't
be-
good at it.
you
You were
can't be-
not good at it.
You can't be
I
bad
didn't
at it.
enjoy it, but I was perfectly successful at the thing you were attempting to try and do.
He's right. You can't be bad at it because it's very, very simple to understand because you're literally doing one thing and the control. You're about to go into the control, so continue. But I would say that anyone could just pick up this game and instantly start being pretty good at it.
I don't know. I would disagree because on the case that if you're used to a certain kind of control scheme, and most games where X is going to be your jump if there is a jump, and square is going to be probably your attack or your shoot or whatever. Triangle your menu or whatever. It's a totally different thing here, and so there is a jump, but that's not a primary function, and you could even get by without even using it. You're using your two analog sticks on the PlayStation 2 controller, and you're using them in conjunction with one another. So you press both of them forward and you move forward. You tug both of them backwards and you're moving in reverse. If you pull one backwards and the other forwards, then you angle the ball, you kind of rotate it in the direction that you're pressing forward. And so that's completely different than all the other games that you play with the PlayStation 2 controller.
It is a pretty novel control scheme.
Yeah.
And I will say it's the one part of the game that I might describe as arcade-ish. Nolan did that, and I was like, it's not, and I still don't think it is. But the fact that it's dual analog joysticks does have the feel of a couple of there's an old classic tank-based arcade game where the motion is both joystick.
Chips
and,
Tank.
Yeah, all kinds of them. And so that is what I thought of, but it's probably the most novel thing about the game for sure.
Well, you can see in my first play that they take you through the tutorial and they just kind of throw you into it, which I really loved. Like the loading screens in this game seem pretty seamless at times. Like they just sneak you into a stage and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess it loads while he's talking to you. The king is talking to the prince.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm in the tutorial and I'm not getting it. I'm like, what? Because I'm only using my left joystick because like you said, at this, I've been taught to do that. And then my X button in like a racing game or whatever would be go. So I was trying to hold X or something. But once I realized, okay, they want me to use both, it was unnatural at first. But very quickly, I would say, for me, it became natural. Like it felt good. And I liked that there wasn't anything else to it. If you needed to change directions, I think you push in on the joysticks
On both of them.
To go flip around, and then you can go the other direction. I didn't really use jump either, but yeah, I guess I just felt like that they made it so that anyone can just understand the rules and then start playing it. And they give you a pretty generous amount of time to get through some of these stages. I mean, at least early on, but.
And for me, it took me a session to I wasn't comfortable with it in the first session. Probably my second gameplay session, I was starting to get a hang of it just because it is so foreign. And then it took me the better part of the week to get good at maneuvering. And there were times, I mean, I joked about Kenny struggling with it earlier, and I don't know if he did, but me still trying to figure out, there were times I was like, I am big enough to pick up this item, and I would bounce off of that item. And if you strike an item that is either actively moving or it is too big for you to pick up, you could knock off other things that you've already grabbed. And so you've got kind of that, I don't know, puzzle-ish element that is
Puzzling.
working against you as well. the thing that was most fun for me in discovering and mastering that system was that it really changes and adapts the stages as you play.
Yeah.
You've got kind of like this playground to play within, but it's so limited at first because of your size. But by the end, if you've been successful, you have entirely new vantage points. The camera has pulled out considerably. The areas that you couldn't even barely touch before, you're now rolling over with a vengeance. And up until there was even, I think it took me to stage 8 or star 8 where I was able to, for the very first time, get angels. And what that means is that at a certain point, if you have collected virtually all that there is to collect and gotten as big as you could virtually get, you'll have angels that appear on the screen and start to fly around as you continue to roll over. And that was so much fun because where I started picking up tax on that stage, I was literally at the end rolling over this square that was so much smaller now, in my perspective, to try to just grab the last little bits of things that my ball could pick up as angels flew around to celebrate my success.
Yeah, it feels kind of sandboxy in that way. In that you're in a confined space, but you feel like you have a lot of freedom. I mean, you're gonna eventually pick up the same things that I picked up in that same stage, right? But how you do it in the order that you do it is kind of up to you. And it's the draw to this game for me is just how silly everything is. We've already talked about the tone being silly, but just like the fact that you're picking up a cat, like, is so stupid. Like, but the fact that you can is really fun, and there really is no game like this. Like, I can't even compare it to anything. Usually I have some sort of reference point, but for this one I have none.
Kenny, can something be stupid and fun?
Kenny is.
Sure.
Okay.
This isn't it.
This is such a weird take, no, because I I should have known coming in that Kenny, the possibility was there of Kenny having such a weird relationship with this game this week, but I don't know. What Nolan and I are explaining in this game sounds so different than what Kenny's experience was this week.
Kenny, how far did you get in the game?
That's a good question.
Star fairly far. Like I didn't play through the whole thing. Though I watched some of the end game just to get the sense of scale because I knew it got that big and I wanted to see that. But I got to where you were collecting people, like which is pretty far into the game.
Like the game? Like,
did you build any of the constellations, Kenny? Did y'all do any of those stages?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
like...
there is a singular difference to how the gameplay goes about, and that is that you can move from creating these stars, which is the same. It's different each star, but it's technically the same, rolling from small to big, to doing this other kind of gameplay experience where you're building out constellations.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's still the same gameplay.
I mean, you're still rolling up, but the objective is different. Now, it isn't on the first constellation or two, but then on some of the constellations, you are having to collect a certain item, like crabs. You can collect other things, but the amount of crabs that you collect is what matters at the end of the day. Another, swans, I think. You're collecting
swans,
eggs,
rather.
that after you've collected the eggs, they hatch, and so you're a big ball of these hatched swans that are squawking as you're rolling around. Another one was that you're actually trying to get as big as you can while avoiding all the bears, because you can only collect one bear, and once you do, the stage ends. So you try to avoid all the bears until you can pick up the biggest bear you can find.
Kenny, that sounds right up your alley. I'm really confused.
No.
Okay.
Now I will say the attempt at making there be some other play modes like that where you have to avoid certain things more specifically and then choose when to actually get one feels like it's trying to be a little bit more of a game. And my understanding is that future versions of this game, like sequels, put a lot more of that in, where you have specific goals and things that you're trying to accomplish or not accomplish. And I think that would go a long way in improving my enjoyment of the game. But fundamentally, I think that just underlying mechanic just didn't work for me.
You're. I really like this one aspect of the game that is very minor, really, when you think about it, the full scope of the gameplay. But there's, and I say this in air quotes, there's a hub world, kind of, in that when you're done with the stage, you get sent back to your home planet, and it's like a sphere. You're on a planet, and you can walk around. The prince can walk around to different things. So like Tiny Prince, sorry.
And it's a tiny
your
planet.
smallness.
It works.
I think he gets called your smallness at one point.
This.
You can check. You can do like settings there, but you can also like go to the data, and you can go and check the next constellations or the next stars that you have to complete. And I liked that, and I also liked the like tune that was playing on that one. But it felt like a nice little break in between, because they could have easily just sent you from stage to stage, right? But having that break, even if it was minor and there's not like a ton to do on it, I always appreciate having that freedom to like walk around and decide when I want to go to the next stage.
And you got stage selection,
Yeah.
so you could switch over to Earth and pick to redo a star that you've already done to get bigger,
Yeah.
or to redo a constellation to get a bigger bear because you got a small bear the first time.
Or or rename it, like, because I think for most stars, I think the case for like what they're named is the item that you picked up the most. So like one was like Pencil Star was like the first one, because I picked up a bunch of pencils. So that was cool too. So I guess if you want to like rename a star, you could do that too.
It was cool watching your first play because you got to experience that hub world for the first time, and I know you like that. There was another game we played. It was a JRPG, I think, or maybe it's a North American RPG, where it had another kind of room like that.
Free play menu. Yeah, that was I want to say that was Seiken
Was it
Densetsu
Seiken
3.
Densetsu?
Yeah.
But also getting to see, I'm glad that you started recording your first play at the beginning, because if you haven't caught on yet, not only with the theme of this game, but with every element, it is this weird kind of Japanese quirky that Kenny
Super quirky, strange.
And I believe that recording, or that man humming the theme song at the beginning is, from what I gather, is one of the creators of this game. He had heard the tune in his head, and he recorded it on a little, I doubt it was a phone. It may have been a phone, but a little recording device, walking around the studio at the time because he didn't want to forget it. And then they just actually put in that audio into the game. So at the beginning, it's just this man humming the theme song, but it immediately sets the tone for what you're going to experience in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
It immediately sets it up as unique. You go from this kind of weird, dark, hummy thing that was intriguing and totally hooked me, to then weird, trippy cartoon rainbows and an upbeat theme song that does not sound like that first song to me at all. It was a total reversal. I went from like, okay, this is like ambient and going to be really cool, and I'm intrigued by what this game is, to being like slapped in the face with silly nonsense and just not feeling okay with it.
A lot of people are going to be mad at you, Kenny. Just so you know.
That's all right.
No? We're
It's
going to
not
have,
that.
yes, but we're going to have older listeners that enjoyed. What is it? He just doesn't appreciate art?
Ooh. I think that might be
certainly
it.
not that.
Aged.
So I said that the intro weird little hook was different than the rest of the music.
Can I sing it?
Absolutely, I would love that. I love when you do impressions and stuff.
Na, 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 na. Yeah, we could remix it, but go ahead. Go ahead.
We absolutely should. And the music continued to play a really, really strong part of this game. I think, Nolan, you talked about this game as, you didn't describe it as not really a game. I did. But I'm going to say it's not really a game so much as this entertainment experience where you're just vibing as the kids these days say, Nolan. And it's impossible to vibe, or so I'm told, without good music. And this music absolutely does deliver on that front. The tracks are varied, they're unique, they fit the weird tone of the game, but without being so over the top that they are distracting. And I can 100% appreciate someone having nostalgia for this game and wanting to go boot up the OST and listen to it, because it's excellent.
It's got such a mix of genres, and it's all got that like J-pop flair kind of thing going on.
And jazz.
And some of it's samba, some of it's jazz, some of it's like power rock, some of it's easy listening. Like, dude, there's a stage where, I mean, I'm not using it in the cool kid terminology way that Kenny even just referenced, but there are some like chill vibe music that I was like, I could stay on the stage
actually
and just vibe.
The vibes were immaculate.
Exactly how you're using it.
What?
The vibes were immaculate.
No, I know what you said, Kenny. Yes, the vibes were immaculate. I thought every single track was wonderful. It's not, in my opinion, something that I would necessarily listen to if I'm trying to listen to video game music. But for the game and for the quirk and the silliness of what it is, I thought it worked better than perfectly. It was right on key for that.
It's excellent and fits the game. I also wouldn't go back and listen to it standalone outside of just sort of like appreciating what it was. I think there's better, more like ambient video game music if you want that sort of just like background track to your life. But maybe if you're on some kind of Japanese LSD trip,
I knew you were going to say
it's
drugs.
exactly what you want to play. Maybe.
Music boy?
The composer, Yu Miyake, is the guy that hummed into the recorder and they used it, which is super fun bit of trivia for this game. But also, like, this guy was so involved with like making sure that the OST did not just like serve as background music, and it was supposed to be part of the gameplay. So like that Guitaru Man game that we played, where like the gameplay is the music, so it's a rhythm game. So this game is not a rhythm game, but it's the closest thing that I know of to a game respecting and using sound to its advantage for the player. Like,
well, originally the plan was as your ball grows, the music grows in complexity. And then if you even like lost elements of the ball, you know, they got knocked off or whatever, the music would like pare back. And that's such a cool concept to me, especially for just what's going on in this game. I think there were some technical limitations to their ability to do that well. And so they scrapped that. But conceptually, that's a really cool, you can tell they were thinking about how the game and the music fit.
And I felt that although they weren't able to do that, I do feel like as the time progressed, they had some kind of layers that there was still a lot of thought put into this. And
absolutely.
Even if they weren't able to do some of those things, I know that they intentionally did some others to make the soundtrack a part of the experience, not just a backing thing, but a part of the living experience as you're rolling up cows.
Right. And it wasn't just like on repeat, like on loop. You're right. It had like full on composition. Like it went to different sections and it grew and got grand, and then it would go back to normal or whatever. I don't know, music stuff. But I think it's so fantastic. And I think that it aged so well. I can see why you say you wouldn't put it on to listen to video game music, because, you know, some of it's very silly. But the chill songs are very chill. And this kind of brings back to what I was saying about the arcadey feel of it. I could see myself in 2004 coming home from school and wanting to play this game, to just sit down, listen to cool music, and not have to think too much about the game I'm playing and just roll. I love that. And I love that there's not like some difficult challenge or you have to be killing bosses or something. It's a very nice break from every other kind of game that I enjoy typically. It's just so different, and the music is in part why it stands out so much. It's so good.
Graphically, I thought that it's not as strong as the music, but it's very unique. It is very like specifically tailored to this game. I feel like the graphics are low poly, they are somewhat blurry, but they pop with color, and they're very characteristic of the unique quirkiness of the game. You're not going to look at the graphics, in my opinion, and be like, I mean, wow, that's top tier graphics. They're really pushing the limits of the PlayStation 2. But I do think you're going to look at it and say, wow, they really went with a vibe here, or whatever other word you want to throw in there, and that they stuck to that and did that exceptionally well.
Now,
Yeah,
I
I
disagree.
totally agree.
I think the graphics are top tier. Top tier on PS2.
But they're not.
They are. Because they were intentionally poly where they were poly, like in the actual stages. But like those cutscenes with the humans,
Yeah,
are so well executed and so unique and very artistic. And like the king and some of the other characters are like paintings. Or like you can tell that they like painted it and it was like detailed. It looked like concept art, but it was the game. I thought it was very, very good, as good as the music.
I feel like it was concept art and stayed there, but I also feel like the game is a concept and stayed there. So I
this guy
shouldn't
is.
compare
I'm
too
gonna
hard.
I'm
Okay,
gonna roll him over with a Katamari.
here's the thing about graphics. I think Dustin's way closer on this one. I think it
No.
fits the game. I liked the variety of items and the simplicity of them for gameplay. It was obnoxious to look at. This doesn't look like a real world, and I know it doesn't need to, but just the random scattering of objects just everywhere just isn't visually pleasing or realistic. But that's what this game is. And so because of what they were trying to do, they put in a bunch of objects, they made them unique and identifiable. Yes, they're a little bland. PlayStation 2 isn't like my favorite era of look, and this one reinforces that. But it fit what the game was trying to do. And so I'm okay with what they did with graphics, but I do think they were kind of a little safe or boring or uninspired. The gameplay themselves, graphics, they tried to make up for it with all of the other crack smoking that was going on, but
There's depth of field. There's blur in the background on the bigger stages. Like, get real. It's ugly to look at because there's objects everywhere. That's the point of the game.
Which is why it makes sense.
I don't want y'all to think that I agree with Kenny. I'm somewhere in the middle here. I think that they went with an aesthetic and they nailed that aesthetic. I don't think that aesthetic is pushing PlayStation 2 limits, and I don't think that aesthetic, compared to some other PlayStation 2 titles, is done as well. But I think for the aesthetic they're going for, they did well with that. That's all I'm saying. So I still give it a passing grade by far. I even give it an A for graphics. I just don't think that since it's so aesthetic, since it's an aesthetic, it's not going to work for everyone because it's such a unique kind of style that they went with there. But again, I think it works for what they're going for.
You're both wrong.
Do you think in the realm of age, do you think being such a different kind of experience, Kenny's not even saying it's a game, whether it's with the control scheme or the way the game is set up in the first place, do you think that is a factor that will make it difficult for modern gamers to come back to?
Not at all.
Oh,
if anything, that's one of the best things about this game is how well it ages, because the experience now is exactly like the experience then. Partly because the graphics aren't the shining part, but it's just like what you're doing. Partly because it's just this, vibe and experience, and you're rolling around this ball and like enjoying that or not. It doesn't age at all.
Wow. I don't understand what you're doing.
Kenny just thinks it's a bad game from the start,
right?
But it ages really well in its badness.
I think the reason why it aged so well, and I agree with Kenny here, I think it's very accessible and it hasn't aged that much because of the tone and the humor Like the control scheme, I think was fine. The graphics and the music I think are quality, but the reason why I think it's so playable is that it's so self-aware and so funny, and it still is. And I think people appreciate that now. Like people can go back to that. Like today, that sort of humor is still on the table. It's still really funny. And they break down the fourth wall sometimes in this game, which I'm always a fan of. So like, yeah, I think it's so playable. I don't think there's much of a hurdle at all.
When you do out there humor, it's really easy to make that super context specific, either like super culturally specific or super specific in time. We've had a lot of games that were like,
that was your problem with Gex.
This was funny in the 90s, you know, but it's stupid today. And that wasn't the case here. Again, like either you like the jokes and it works for you or you don't, but regardless, they didn't make them in a way that wouldn't future proof. And so I do think it just aged remarkably well.
Katamari Damacy actually launched a franchise because of its success, which is interesting. You would think that this maybe ended up having to be like a cult following because of how unique it is. It feels like one of those.
And it kind of did.
I feel like it had success from the start.
I think they
sell
predicted
nearly as much as they thought it was going to.
Yeah.
It was successful, but I feel like it's always been sort of cult success. It's been smaller numbers, it's been consistent gameplay, but it hasn't like busted out or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. It was the top-selling game of the week of its release, sold over 155,000 copies in Japan by the end of 2004.
Won a bunch of awards that they didn't expect to win. Like there's definitely things about it that you can say are good, but it didn't meet initial expectations for how many it was going to sell. They weren't even sure at first if they were going to, you know, do a US release at all. Like there were a lot of really mixed feelings about this game just because it's so unique.
I think they had really good marketing.
It was successful. I just don't think it was like wildly successful. It's certainly a cult success in my mind.
It definitely launched a franchise. We love Katamari, beautiful Katamari, Touch My Katamari, and many others.
Touch My Katamari, you're lying.
I promise you,
That's
dude.
Great. That's actually really good.
I know Kenny still doesn't believe me.
That's so good.
I believe you.
There are many other games in this series that came out, and you can get a disc for yourself for only $10. And if you want it brand new, you can get it for $20. A brand new Katamari Damacy game for $20. I know that some of our listeners did that this week. They went to their retro stores or to their stores in their area and were able to find a copy. So if you want a copy for your PS2, you can probably fairly easily pick one of these up.
You know what it is? It's 2004. We're always like playing older games and they are expensive now, but this one, 2004, it's not that old.
They're still making them.
I guess so.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. And maybe Nolan, Kenny, and then myself might be the order here.
Sure. Wait, did you say me first?
I did say you first.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I think you could have probably heard it in my voice by now. I think this game is absolutely ridiculous and wonderful. I think that you can easily pick up and play it. I mean, even cost-wise, apparently, today. And I do think that what they remade it, is it Reroll? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, and it's on the Switch.
It's on the Switch. I might have to get it for like on the holidays while I'm out of town. That sounds like a good idea. I said mistakenly in the first play that the sequel is coming out next year. I didn't know what I was talking about. It's so unique. It's unlike any game that I've ever played. I don't have one reference point for it. And I think that was a bold choice for them to go for something like this, but it worked so well. Check it out, if for no other reason, the OST. So play it.
So that's one yes. Kenny, go ahead and tell us why this game is great.
Yeah, I'm ready for this one.
Unsurprisingly, by now because I haven't kept my hot take as hot as it should be. Uh, no one's going to be surprised, but this is not an NGP status game for me personally. I didn't enjoy the game. Now, that said, the humor just isn't up my alley. The gameplay is
Yes, it
repetitious.
is.
The giant ball of destruction is sort of fun, like conceptually, but I feel like someone could just explain this game to you, and the joke and novelty of it is just as fun as the actual playthrough of it. It didn't work for me. There were a lot of things they did well. I agree the music's great. I agree it's pretty easy to pick up and pretty timeless, but it's a very, very unique game, and as such, I feel like it's going to be a game you either like or dislike, and this game is cheesecake for me. I don't like cheesecake. A lot of people do, and I understand why. I've tasted cheesecake and understand that it's a mostly universally enjoyed thing and is a good dessert, but it's not my preference, and this game did not work for me. And so yeah, I get why there's so much fanfare, but no New Game Plus.
Oh, sorry, I fell asleep. It's not your humor? What's your humor? Pee pee poo poo? What's funny to you?
Clearly.
He loves pee pee poo.
Dude, you're lying.
That's
All right,
my
Dustin.
favorite thing.
Bring us home.
Yeah, this game, of course, deserves New Game Plus status. It is so silly, so unique, and it is so unique. I'm going to stay with that because I know we've said it, there's no game like it. Kenny will agree with that. He just thinks that there shouldn't have been a game like it. And Nolan and I are saying there absolutely should have. I will say this, understanding a little bit of what Kenny might be saying, just a little bit. I do think there's a novelty that if you don't give yourself, if you don't say, yeah, this is a novelty and this is quirky and this is weird, and if you don't give yourself to that to experience it, sure, you're just going to be like, okay, I get it after the first stage or two, like Kenny, I feel like he did, and then be like, okay, I got it. I know what it is. It's going to be the same thing. I don't care anymore. I feel like that's what Kenny did. And I understand. I got there and it was fun, but then the novelty can wear off. And unless you continue playing and realize, no, as the stages progress, I start to roll up bigger and better things. Each level is new. I can go about each level differently than I did than someone else can, or differently than I did the last. And then with those other stages of building out the constellations, I do have a different kind of spin on the game if I want to go that route as well. So I think that there is an experience here that everyone absolutely should play. I don't think everyone's going to enjoy it equally because it is a quirky, unique game. But I do think everybody should be able to look at it and be like, wow, this is a piece of art, and this is so silly, so fun, so well done. And so everyone should know about it. I think everyone should play it, which means that Katamari Damacy is New Game Plus certified.
Dab on them.
But what did you think? We had many write in, as always. We cannot possibly include all of your commentary, but please continue to send in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. Clint said, Katamari is such a fun experience. The first time you play, you realize slowly that you will eventually bring about the end of life on Earth. But it's okay, because according to the King of all Cosmos, the people are happy to be rolled up. You begin to roll up spare paper clips, then family pets, cars, bystanders, cities, and mountains. Enjoying this game can be done without the help of music, but the hilarious setting and gameplay is accompanied by some of the catchiest music to ever grace human ears. Play this game and send human existence to the sun.
Kenny needs to be rolled up.
Ooh, he'd be the first. Actually,
Yeah.
You'd have to go through a few things to be able to get up to his giant size. Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
Good interaction there. Mochi said, when Katamari
Damacy.
When Katamari was announced as Game of the Week, I smiled a genuine smile. This game is ridiculous, outlandish, and it flaunts it. It's such a fun and unique experience. The trance, including Nas and music, the perfectly used colors, the various use of animation all blend together so well. This game holds up even today. It's definitely one you can easily pick up and play for however long you'd like. I highly recommend this game to anyone and everyone. Kenny, did you not enjoy your first experiences with it even?
Some of my very first experiences with it, I had moments that I enjoyed.
Such an
I
answer.
I think
didn't. It never worked for me. Like everybody keeps saying quirky, like that's always automatically a good thing. It was too weird, too like uniquely bizarre Japanese. I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't vibe.
Didn't vibe with Kenny. Jafar wrote in and he said, I'm happy I had an excuse this week to break out my copy and play on original hardware. This was always one of my favorite PS2 games to pick up and play with no real goals, only real rolls. You can always come back and see weird things that you missed. It feels like a weird living world that has its own lore that we can only guess at. Later games in the series do it better. My favorite later edition being all the weird cousins you could unlock and play as in single player, not just multiplayer. I still hear from some of the songs in my head from time to time. New Game Plus for me.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the sequels are like. I haven't even thought about that.
Well, and we didn't even talk about multiplayer in this game because we didn't experience that this week, but there is a whole
Yeah.
a multiplayer section. I've heard two things. I've heard one, that you're competing roles to see who can get the biggest, which would make sense. I've also heard two, that you're controlling the same Katamari ball, which sounds like hell.
Yeah, that sounds really bad. 4 joysticks, 1 Katamari. Have fun? No.
Yeah, I think I've really heard that these sequels build upon what this one was and only do it better.
Good.
Which
Good.
that's gotta
Sequels
be
are
wrong.
better, and in this case, that won't be hard.
And then finally, Brojim said, the danger of making a game as unique as this one is that sometimes developers go for the edgy or quirky and forget to make a game fun. That's what Kenny thinks. But Brojim says, this is not the case here. I'm not sure
It is.
what makes it so entertaining. Is it the level design? Is it the little icon describing every single item you've consumed in your ball? Is it the emotionally abusive and neglected father figure talking about how he's lost his keys, wallet, and hope? Probably it's all of the above, but it still has no business being as fun and relaxing as it is. Then it has a great soundtrack. Seems unfair. I think my favorite part of the game is how the levels open up more and more as your Katamari gets bigger and bigger. As your perspective shifts further back, you're rewarded with hidden sections of the stage. It reminds me of Tony Hawk or San Francisco Rush, finding hidden and expanded areas and arenas where it seemed likely only a tiny stage. $20 for the Switch version was a steal. Easy in GP.
I like that Tony Hawk comparison. I can
Kinda
see
makes
that.
sense.
The free
Yeah.
roam aspect, and then like getting the secret areas, or I mean, maybe they're not so secret in this game, but yeah.
I'll agree that it's an exploration game more than a puzzle game.
Oh my god, get this guy out of
I'm
here.
done with this guy, honestly. Thank you for sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. We weren't able to include everyone's again, but send in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week to ngppodcast@gmail.com, or you can hang out in our Discord, visit the commentary section there, and we try to include that as a part of our episode next week. But for now, we're going to put aside Katamari, and we're going to randomly select, but not from our expansive Retro Master list. We're going
Ayo.
to... We've got a Patreon pool, boys.
Yes.
Oh, it's time.
Whoa, we got a song for the Patreon.
No,
poll.
no.
Oh, it's time. No. All right, so we are from that cold list going to select a game from one of our patrons. Now, we have many different games here. I'm trying to pull it up right now. There we go. We have got games like Shadow of the Colossus for the
Ooh.
PlayStation 2. We've got a thematically appropriate, because of the reason for the season, Luigi's Mansion. We've got, let's see, Pitfall for the Atari 2600. We've got Black and White for the PC, Final Fantasy X.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I believe because it's like Godzilla's anniversary or something, we've got a couple Godzilla games in here as well. So there's some great games from some great patrons we're randomly selecting now. We have been told that this week is Godzilla's 66th birthday. And so what better way to celebrate, Ramiel says,
Come on,
as he
man.
gave us the game that we're going to be playing for the next 7 days. It was developed by Compile and published by Toho. It's from the Godzilla series for the NES. Came out in 1988 as an action video game called Godzilla Monster of Monsters.
We've played this already.
No, we
Is
haven't.
this the sequel to the Godzilla we have played?
I don't know. Didn't we?
Because we played a Godzilla game on NES,
Yep.
and I'm worried that this is either the same game
It's not the same game.
or that it's as bad as the other one.
Godzilla game we played, was it just called Godzilla? Godzilla?
I think it was called Godzilla, but I don't remember the tagline if there even was one. I just remember us being like, we did not like it. I didn't like it. For sure didn't like it.
There's bound to be a Godzilla game that we would enjoy. So find a copy of Godzilla, Monster of Monsters, and play it along with us in honor of Godzilla's birthday.
Rawr. Join us in Discord, please. I'm serious. We have to get to 500 or more people. I don't know why, but we have to. So just like download Discord or I don't even think you have to download it. You can do the browser version. So go to ngppodcast.com and click join us in Discord and you're there.
We also want to say a big thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com. You guys are absolutely some of our favorite people in the whole world, including our amazing director, Garlisle, who goes above and beyond in not just supporting us, but in sharing his thoughts on games and interacting with the community and everything else. You're the best. He's closely followed by some producer level supporters that we love to give a shout out to every week because of their faithful support, including Marlian, Austin, Ben, Brojim, Carrie, David, Dear Baby, Francesca, Corey, Maxima, Shauna, and Zion.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You can also go to our t-shirt store and pick up some hot NGP swag.
Yeah.
Like all three of us are wearing. Just Believe Us audio podcast. Follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. This episode was edited and produced by our good friend Tom Tate. Join us next week as we play Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. Until then, I'm still Dustin.
I'm still Kenny.
Touch my Katamari, please.
Not please, dude. That makes it a little creepy. And this has been New Game Plus.